Raider Nation, what is going on, man? I'm so excited to bring you guys today's live. I got a special guest in Raid the Tape joining me. He needs no introduction. All you guys know that this is the man that does it. But man, what about that intro, man? It fires me up every time. Raiders football is so close, and the Raiders actually got rejuvenated a little bit this week. You know, with the returning of Trayvon Mullen, Jonathan Hankins, Rock Yassin, Anthony Averett, Bilal Nichols, Divine Diablo. We're gonna address the chat. And shout out to the chat, man, for pulling up. We got Robert Pena in the building with the Raiders. Salute Raider Ray, salute Raider Nation. Sean says Raider Ray and Raid the Tape. Raider Nation is upon us. Let's get talking all Raiders news. Should be fire.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, man? What's going on? Appreciate you having me on.
Nah, man, I appreciate you for taking some time out of your day, man, and just giving the Raider Nation a good show. I'm excited, man. I like I said, we kind of talked before we went live, and I've been watching some of your stuff for quite some time. I really respect what you do, and appreciate the work. And you didn't have to take time, but you took time out of your day to come on here, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, most definitely. Anytime to talk some Raiders football. I mean, we got an exciting season too, man. So it's different. It's a lot different from the past seasons. We have high expectations, not from only the fans, but like everybody. So we definitely have to exceed those expectations. So it's an exciting year.
So everybody's in the chat, man. Everybody's saying salute Ray the Tape, salute Raider Ray. Jack Kenneth says, OMG, my absolutely. You got to learn how to articulate a sentence here, Jack. My absolutely brothers and Raid and Ray. Hey, man, we're just coming to bring you guys some good content tonight. We just wanted to introduce you guys real quick. Alex Marquez says, what's good? Jack Kenneth says, I want on Ray. All right, well, let me talk to my dude real quick. Let me get this out. Van City says, Ray, my brother, good to see you, my friend. I'm having a night from hell. Thanks for going live, brother. I need something to calm me down. Well, hey, man, all prayers out to you, man. I hope everything's going good.
Yep, let's
Okay.
change that. Let's change that. Let's have a
Yeah,
good
let's
show,
change that
y'all. Let's
up,
have a
man.
good show. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Make sure I hit that like button and make a play. You know what it
Yeah,
is,
if you
man.
guys haven't, man, swing on over to Raid the Tape. I'm sure all you guys are subscribed to that, man. But go over here. Here's his IG. Follow him on Raid the Tape. And here's my IG right now. But look, man, the Raiders got a boost in the arm, okay? Getting all these players back. And it wasn't just a few depth pieces. We're talking about some key contributors to this defense. Trayvon Mullen getting added to a defensive back room. We got Jonathan Hankins, Rock Yassin, Anthony Averett, Divine Diablo, and Bilal Nichols. So what looked to be like a big question mark for the Raiders, they got some help. So that's good moving into next week, this Miami game, the New England game coming up in joint practices. What do you think about Trayvon Mullen coming back in his situation?
He definitely has to get his feet back up under him, I'm sure, after the surgery. Now, when you think about it, Anthony Averett hasn't been practicing either. You know, I'm sure he's conditioned. Rocky Sin as well. So it's really interesting because I want to see who starts beginning of the season. Personally, I like Trayvon Mullen, so I always expected, or not always, but I've been expecting him and Rocky Sin to start. Anthony Averett to be a prime third cornerback, definitely someone to come in and just in case an injury happens, he's definitely a good guy to come in. We know Nate Hobbs is at the slot, so it's going to be interesting how it pans out. I think we have, like you said, when we're off air, a good problem in this situation at the cornerback spot. You know, Anthony Everett, someone that could definitely start as well. He proved last year when he was with the Ravens that he could do pretty well, having to come in and play. I believe it was for Marcus Peters. So it's going to be interesting. What do you think is going to happen, though, at the start of this season when it comes to Trayvon Mullen? Some people have actually said he might not even make the team, but
That's
I
wild.
can't see that. I can't see that happening. I can't see that happen.
No, that's wild. Look, I think a lot of people forget how good of a cover corner Trayvon Mullen can actually be. Especially he's a long press man cover corner who's good at getting up to the line of scrimmage and getting his hands on guys. And in this Patrick Graham defense, I think more so than the other defensive coordinators, Trayvon Mullen's going to have a real opportunity to showcase his skill set. I don't understand the whole – everybody's just throwing this guy under the mud. And look, he's gotten beat up. He's gotten injured. That's part of the game of football. But when Trayvon Mullen's healthy, I think he's shown that he's been a consistent good corner for the Raiders. When you add him into that group, look, Nate Hobbs is a guy. I know everybody's talking about the nickel position, but Nate Hobbs is turning into one of those guys that's such a good cover corner that you can line him up on the best receiver, especially with the kind of off season he's had, the work he's getting in with Devontae and Hunter. You get the sense that Nate Hobbs is taking that next step in the development of his career. So in that base 3-4, I could see Nate Hobbs playing on the outside with a guy like
Yeah.
Trayvon Mullen. And if you ask me, that's a really good cornerback duo for the Raiders, especially if this front seven can get going. You mentioned a guy like Anthony Averett. Look, if they wanted to keep Nate Hobbs on the outside, you could kick Anthony Averett inside. He has the 4-3 speed. He has the ability to cover. And Rock Yassin, look, if all these guys are healthy moving into week one, you're actually talking about a pretty
Yeah.
deep defensive backcourt. I mean, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, the big question, Ray, is can this front seven get after it week one, and can we be healthy? Is Bilal Nichols going to get ready? Really, I think this defense has a real opportunity to be sneaky.
Yeah, definitely. A good time to transition to that front seven. I think they will. I definitely think they will. Of course, barring any injuries. I think on paper, this is one of the best teams we've had in a long
Mm,
time.
mm,
The defensive tackle room is something we definitely need to keep an eye on. I know this past week when we played the Vikings, we were taking some punishment when it came to the run game a little bit there. So we definitely need to see what these veteran defensive tackles can do, and Nichols and Hankins now that they're coming off the pup. And as far as the edge, I mean, we don't even have to talk about the edge. We have probably, if not the best, top three edge duo on this team. So I mean, we don't even have to really talk about that. So I think it's
Well,
just a lot of pressure on this defensive tackle room, especially the way Patrick Graham runs the scheme. I feel like he favors defending the pass game more than he worries about the run. So I think it puts more stress on those D tackles to be able to fill up them gaps. You know what I mean? Be able to get on them interior alignment and then get off quick. So I think that's going to be something to definitely keep an eye on.
yeah, no, I think the addition again, Jonathan Hankins back in Bilal Nichols. And this offseason, dude, when we took Neil Farrell Jr., I was pretty high on him. I thought that,
Yeah.
the number one run graded defensive tackle in college last season. And I figured he's the younger, bigger, faster Jonathan Hankins. But with seeing these first two preseason games, dude, I just don't think him and Matthew Butler are ready.
Mm-hmm.
They're not creating enough plays. They're not getting enough
No.
push. They're not creating enough pass rush. Even Neil Farrell in the run game, he's not fighting off double teams like I kind of expected him to. So
Yeah.
now it puts Jonathan Hankins in the situation that we actually need a nose tackle to emerge. Now, there is a
Mm-hmm.
guy on tape. I don't know if you got to watch the film of the Minnesota Vikings game, but Andrew Billings
Yep.
really had a big game. I mean, he was
Yeah.
disruptive, fighting off double teams, and it kind of looks like he's emerging into the nose tackle that Patrick Graham likes to use.
Mm-hmm.
And also the edge rush position. You said that we have the top three edge rush duo outside of Max and Chandler Jones. We got Malcolm Kuntz, which I expect
Mm-hmm.
him to have a pretty big season. He's one of my under the radar candidates to come out, maybe like a 6 to 8 sack, just having a big improvement from his rookie year.
Yep.
Outside of that, though, I know we went out and we just got Jordan Jenkins that we signed. Where do you have a guy like Cleve Farrell at?
It's really tough to say because from my understanding, still, is he back at practice? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. And even if he's not, I mean, he's getting how much, 10 million this year still, because just he's a first round draft pick, and that's just how it works. So I don't see him being with us, I mean, any longer. And he's probably gonna be like fifth on this depth chart. He's gonna probably be the last person on this depth chart. Malcolm Kuntz is for sure that third guy. Behind him, it's kind of tough to say, um, but we bring in a guy like Jordan Jenkins, so we'll see how he fits into this and if he actually makes the team. So because some people are actually thinking he'll get cut as well, and we got to keep an eye on that. But as far as the defensive tackle room, like you were bringing up with those two rookies, I think we've seen definitely that they're not going to be able to hold it down, and I didn't think we were going to be able to depend on them. Um, so that's to our demise that we haven't taken a defense tackle in the past, especially like last year when we could have grabbed Barmore. But
Oh my gosh, don't even mention
imagine
that.
grabbing Barmore and Merrick. I just felt
Mm,
like that would have just been, you would have blew out. You would have killed the draft, Barmore
mm.
and Merrick. But we took Alex Otherwood, but we're talking about the D line right now, so let's stick
So
there. And so, what do you think about the signing in Jordan Jenkins? And because you asked me about Clee, and I don't think he's going to really be a factor, honestly. I just don't. If he does, then good for him. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about him, but I mean we've been waiting long enough, right? Like,
Right.
for something to go on. So I think we got to keep an eye on Jordan Jenkins at this point because we let go of Gary or Jerry Green, however you say his first name. So I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, when it comes to Jordan Jenkins, he's a good depth piece, and it's a guy that we talked about on my previous live before he was even picked up by the Raiders. Once he was released from the Houston Texans, I kind of brought it up as a guy to keep an eye on. He offers you good power when it comes to pass rush. He has 25
Mm-hmm.
career sacks. He's 6'3", 260. He just looks like one of those depth pieces right now. To be honest with you, I'm not even going to say he's a lock to make the roster. I mean,
No.
he's an early cut candidate from the Texans. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I know a lot of people are buying a lot of hype into him, and I'm glad that when we lost Kyle Fackrell and we released
Yep.
Gary Green, obviously we need some depth at that edge rush position. But when I'm looking at the pass rush situation, it's not necessarily on the edges that I'm more concerned about. I think that there's guys that can fill in there and play situational pass rushing downs. It's really the interior, and it's if you're Dave Ziegler right now, Raid, are you looking at the free agent market? Are you maybe going to go out and target an Ndamukong Suh, maybe a Linval Joseph, or are you going to be patient and let these teams release some of these aging veterans and then maybe make a move then?
I think we need to. I think we need to probably be patient because we need to see what we have in Nichols and Hankins. I believe, like we haven't even got a chance to get um, any attention on them. Any tape on them per se. So I think we need to maybe be patient because say Andrew Billings does work out, and then Hankins, and you have Nichols, and you already drafted 2 defensive tackles, so that is going to be a lock for those two. So I think we need to see what we have already because the kind of guys that we would probably pick up from another team that would get cut would probably be at the caliber of Hankins. They probably wouldn't be any better than Nichols. So I think we could be patient, but even if we did want to go out and get a Sue, I wouldn't be mad at that because you know what you're going to get automatically.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to pay whatever he's looking for, but you know what you're going to get out of Sue. So I wouldn't be mad either way we went. I think I would want to be patient though, just to see what we have in Hankins and Nichols. But with Hankins, I feel like we know what we have with him. He's been with the damn team. Let's be honest. Nichols has a little bit more upside. He's a little bit younger, so. That's probably that's probably where I'm at with it when it comes to defensive tackles.
Yeah, I think Nichols offers you a lot better pass rushing assets than a Jonathan Hankins. And Jonathan Hankins played with Patrick Graham in New York, and he only lasted a season. They didn't re-sign him. They didn't go out to get him. So I'm curious to see how high Patrick Graham is on a guy like Jonathan Hankins, who let's be honest, is pretty one-dimensional in his game.
Yep.
He's a nose tackle, run stuffing guy. He's not going to offer you anything when it comes to getting after the quarterback. He's kind of a one-trick pony.
Yep.
But with an Ndamukong Suh, look, if you want to help this back into this defense, who's going to have to develop chemistry pretty quickly, a lot of these guys are playing together for the first time. You want to create the best front seven possible. And I think with a guy out in the open market, and I understand he's kind of used the Raiders' name as a bit of leverage, but Ndamukong Suh, I feel like could just add another dimension to this front seven. And I kind of hate to say it, right, because I know what he's doing. But look, it's the NFL; it's a business, so I don't hate the guy for going out there and trying to get as much money as possible. But you were talking about we had the opportunity to take Christian Barmore in the first round.
Yep.
And instead we took Alex Leatherwood. Now Alex Leatherwood is in a little bit of a weird position because if we're going to be honest, let's just kind of talk the right side of this offensive line real quick. And Alex Leatherwood, to me, this organization did their part. Look, they said, look, Alex, we know that the Raiders thought highly of you. They drafted you to be the right tackle of this football team. We're going to give you the opportunity to go out there and compete for it. And I think that the Raiders did their part. And now it's up to Alex Leatherwood to hold it down, but he just hasn't. And currently on the roster, there's a guy by the name of Jermaine Illuminor. I don't know if you got to see his press conference today, but man, this guy is just all in this offseason. He got to work with Max Crosby, changed his diet, completely put a ton of work in this offseason. And when you watch the film, he's really emerged. I guarantee you, I think right now he is the best right tackle that the Raiders have currently on the roster. So say Alex Leatherwood loses that right tackle position to a Jermaine Illuminor. What do you do with him? You're going to kick him inside to guard. And to be honest, I think Lester Cotton is a guy that could outbeat him. So then what do you do? Switch him over to left guard where he's in a battle with John Simpson? I mean, what's your take on this?
Honestly, it's just the fact that he's a first-round pick that you have to give him so many chances. That's kind of the same dilemma with Cleveland Ferrell in a sense. You just feel like he's going to get the chance because he's a first round pick. If he wasn't, if he was like a fifth or a sixth, then he'd probably be written off a lot sooner. Um, because you hear, like today, Thayer Munford's taking first team reps with the team, with the offensive line. So he's out there sharing first team reps with Alex Leatherwood. And I believe he has before already this past week. So, outside of Jermaine Illuminor, that's another guy that's trying to take Alex Leatherwood's spot. So it's just going to be interesting. I think with Alex Leatherwood, though, he's going to probably – I don't know, man. It's tough to say. It's tough to say. You just never know, especially now when you have a new regime that likes to do things differently than we're used to. But as far as Jermaine Illuminor being that right tackle, I just want to see him out there with this offensive line. You know what I mean? See what he could do out there on the right side, which I think he could do pretty well. Because when we seen him last year, I was surprised when we pulled him. We pulled him for Brandon Parker. It didn't make sense for me why we did that. I think there was probably just some bias there from Tom Cable. But maybe this coaching staff will favor Illuminor because he's been with them before, right? So we'll see what happens with this offensive line. Alex Leatherwood is, he's on the hot seat. Let's be honest. I do want him to have his fair share of opportunities, which I don't think he is going to get, and I don't think he's getting because think about last year. He goes out there right tackle. Then he has to move to right guard. Then he comes back with the new regime this year, and he goes out there and, he's trying to fight for a position. It's like he hasn't got that chance to progress. And people would like to compare Colin Miller, but it's like Colin Miller went through a terrible rookie season, and he went through all the woes. And that was more than 1 year. Like Colin Miller was just like bad his rookie year and then perfect his next year. No, he actually, progressed, but he was bad at first. Alex Leatherwood isn't going to get that chance, and we're seeing it, transpire in front of us. So I think it's unfortunate, but I mean, like you said, it's a business. So we'll see what happens on that right side of the line. So it'll be interesting.
All right, I'm going to address this chat real quick. Omar says, stop it. Leatherwood is the best bet at right tackle. And to be completely honest, like when you break down the film, when it comes to pass protection, I truly do believe that Jermaine Illuminor has had such a phenomenal offseason. He looks like a different player. He comes out of his kick slide a lot better. His punch, his initial punch, his get off is just so much better. And especially on the right side. Now, we've seen him play. Last game, he wasn't taking any reps at left tackle in practice, and they asked him to go out there and play on the left side. And he actually held it down pretty good for a guy who hasn't been getting reps on the left side. Now, on the right side, when he's been getting those starting reps, he's looked really, really good. And if I'm Josh McDaniels and I'm Dave Ziegler and I'm going into week 1, okay, and Omar, I want you to see it this way. If I'm going into week 1, I want to give the Raiders offensive line the best chance possible to succeed. Now, if Alex Leatherwood is struggling like he's shown in preseason, are you really going to trust a Thayer Munford to go out there, a rookie who, let's face it, this offseason he's come out and talked openly about the mental issues that he's been having. Like, do I really belong here? And even Jermaine Illuminor said in his press conference today that, hey, look, Thayer just has to get out of his own head. If you're asking me week 1 on a primetime game going against the Chargers, against a Joey Bosa and a Khalil Mack, I don't want a rookie out there who's second-guessing his skill set. I want to go with the veteran who's played a lot of football. You plug in a Jermaine Illuminor, you go with maybe a Lester Cotton at right guard, and you give Derek Carr the best possibility to stay upright that game. That way we can see what this offense can do. So I don't think Alex Leatherwood, Omar, is the best bet.
Yeah, I don't know if he's the best bet at right tackle, but it's just going to be interesting to see how it unfolds, man. He brings some versatility to his game also because he could play right guard as well, as we know. So Illuminor could do the same thing. Thayer Munford, I believe he played guard when we drafted him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thayer Munford played guard when we drafted him, but the year before, when he was with Ohio, he played right tackle. Something like that. So
he played all over. Yeah, they kind of had him all over the line.
So, I mean, I don't know how his versatility is at the next level, but, I mean, all these dudes have some type of versatility and have played all along the line. So it is going to be fun to see how this O-line shapes up, and hopefully it's not the weak link, because if it is, it's not the time to be, especially with the Chargers doing some things over there with their edge defenders as well.
Jack Kenneth says, hey, Ray, ask Ray when the gray and black cap is coming in. Hello, my boy Ray knows I've been asking every show.
Man, if you're talking about the charcoal gray one, man, it's out. It's out. You just got to pull up to the site, check it out, man.
And you guys got to go grab one. I'm about to go grab one this week when we get off. I gotta order me one of the charcoal ones, bro. It's just too clean. I've been looking around for it. So, but no, man. Okay, so switching over from the offensive line, Kenyon
Yeah,
Drake in the running back room. Is he a
yeah.
surprise cut candidate? Is he a trade guy? Is he a guy you see make the roster? What's your situation with Kenyon Drake moving forward?
It's just interesting with him because of how his contract shaped up. From what I believe, that we
Right.
owe him guaranteed money, right, for this year and next year at least. Like he won't, but I believe he won't be with the team when we still pay him, and that's how it was restructured. So it was just that one's kind of confusing to me because I want to know exactly how that money is shaped up and how they'd be able to, I guess, finagle it to where they don't have to have much of a deficiency in that aspect. But Drake, I don't know, man. This running back room so full. We have another good problem on our hands, and
Hmm.
um, Amir Abdullah has been making the case for himself.
Yes.
Actually, all the running backs have. All the running backs have. But at the end of the day, I think Kenny Drake has the most body of work that you could go behind, even though he's coming off of injury, and he could run up the middle. Let's be honest, he could run up the middle. I don't know if Amir Abdullah could do that. I know he can be shifty and can go to the outside and catch a ball out of the backfield, but Kenny Drake could do the same thing. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if Drake is a complete write-off yet, but he definitely is somebody that could be a surprise cut.
Yeah, I think he did a lot better his second preseason game. What's cool about this running
Mm,
back room is you have so many aspects of these guys' games that kind of balance each other, right? You got a Zamir White, a
yeah,
Josh Jacobs, who are these power type of backs. You got a Kenyon Drake, Amir Abdullah, who can be those third down options. Brandon Bolden, a guy who's really familiar with this system.
yeah,
But even a guy like Austin Walters, I mean, I don't even want to
yeah,
lose that guy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
He was running hard. He was running efficient. This running back room is going to be really, really hard. I'm
yeah.
just somebody's got to get cut, right? Is it
Yes.
Brandon Bolden? Is it Drake? Is it? I don't think Brandon Brown's going to make the roster. Um,
No.
Walters is probably going to be a practice squad type of guy. But look, in 2021, Josh Jacobs kept six backs, five running backs, and one fullback. That could be a situation that the Raiders are looking forward to because if we're being quite honest, I feel like this running back room is going to be kind of the heartbeat of this offense. I think
Yeah.
as that running game goes, and I think that this offensive line is built to run the football pretty well with the simplified power gap scheme up front. I think it's just going to bode well for the backs this year.
Mhm.
You got a blend of guys that can smash mouth football. You can hit the outside and attack the tackles. So really, the blend of this offense is going to run through the running back room, especially creating play action. What are you looking forward to in the wide receiver room?
I'm really looking for that X factor, and I feel like that's what we're trying to shape out with these next couple of wide receiver cuts that we're gonna see going into the season. Because Demarcus Robinson, he ends up going, and some people they say that's a surprise, but it is and it isn't because for him, I think it's kind of in this aspect of respect thing because he's a veteran guy. You want to cut him as soon as possible so he has the opportunity before the season start to go out there and join the team. You know what I mean?
Right.
For these younger dudes, you get more of a higher ceiling. DJ Turner, Tyron Johnson. So you keep them around because we do have a pretty front-loaded wide receiver room. Let's be honest. Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfro, then a guy like Keelan Cole, who's proven to have some production in the league. I mean, wherever he's gone, he's been at least the number one or two wide receiver on the team. He may not have been on the best of teams, but he's still a quality wide receiver. So you definitely see that we want to take a chance on one of these guys, DJ Turner and Tyron Johnson. And I didn't even mention Matt Collins as well, who's a big target. Um, but with him, that's also interesting, because he can be um, a special teams ace, I believe. So he can definitely, find his way onto this roster just for those factors. And so it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up. But I think it ultimately comes down to choosing DJ Turner or Tyron Johnson at this point.
Mm. Okay, so yeah, look, I've been open out on the air, bro, about talking about Mac Hollins and that his. This is just me personally. Like I think DJ Turner, Tyron Johnson. I think a lot of people forget Week 17 against the Chargers. Tyron Johnson was on a key play of creating a fumble, getting the ball back for the Raiders on special teams. A lot of these guys can contribute to special teams. So when I start breaking down their game and I get to Mac Hollins and
Yeah,
I kind of get stuck a little bit
yeah,
because with the Miami Dolphins last season, you're talking about a guy who created 200 receiving yards and
yeah,
two touchdowns. And on a roster that's this deep, Do you and look, let's be honest, 53 men are going to make this team, and these roster spots are going to be really hard to come by because I feel like this team has created a sense of depth that we haven't seen in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to allocate a spot to Mac Hollins? For me, does he separate himself from the other guys? Like, for me, he's not the most spectacular route runner. He's not the
Mm-hmm.
fastest guy. He just
Yeah.
seems like he's a good football player. And when you're talking about a guy like Tyron Johnson with 4.3 speed, DJ Turner, kind of one of those Swiss Army knife guys, really good at
Mm-hmm.
punt returns, can stretch the field a little bit, a little underrated with his speed. Keelan Cole is a possession guy, attacks the sidelines really well. It's just this wide receiver room is really hard to figure out for me because it's almost like every single week in the preseason, one guy's stock is up, the other guy's stock is down.
Yeah.
Because prior to Demarcus Robinson getting released, I actually thought he had a pretty good game. He had a few
Yeah.
physical tough catches, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was a bit of a surprise to me to see him get released that early. Now, could I have seen it come later? Yeah, I could have seen it come later, but
Yeah.
for him to be one of the first 5 to be released, that was pretty intriguing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at with Mac Hollins? Do you think Tyron Johnson has the edge over a guy like DJ Turner? Is DJ Turner pulling away? Where do you kind of see that matchup going right now?
I'm a top. It's tough to say because personally, when you watch the tape, I would like to see some more consistency from Tyron Johnson. And I think that's why he hasn't been a number 1 or 2 on a team yet because he's not consistent enough. You watched I believe it was the first game to where Mullins, drops a dime to him and he even takes a shot to get this throw off and it hits Tyron Johnson in the hands and he drops it. And then there was another one with Stidham to where he was coming across the field. Stidham throws it a little low. He kind of has to slide down to get it, but he doesn't make that catch either. And you would really like to see him make those catches if you're going to be able to get those targets. So it's just that's one thing I would like to see more of in Tyron Johnson, but he has definitely made a lot of plays. And just looking at his track record, he's a big play guy. I mean, you know what you're going to get out of him. He was playing with Justin Herbert and he was scoring touchdowns on us, just what was that last year, I believe. So, or Herbert's rookie year. So we've seen him before make big plays. Now DJ Turner is a guy I would like to see more of, just in
Right.
general. I don't think we've seen enough from him. I know he can be a special teams guy that can come in and return the football, which I like because I don't want Hunter Renfrow out there doing that. I might rather have a designated return guy, a specialty guy. So DJ Turner is good in that aspect, but I definitely want to see more from him just as a wide receiver because when he comes in as a receiver, he's not going to line up outside. We know that. He's going to line up as a slot, and we know Hunter Renfrow is our slot guy. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that develops because he would be that backup to Hunter Renfrow ultimately.
Right. And so moving about this wide receiver room, I feel like when I was breaking down the film, especially with these quarterback situations, Jared Stidham and Nick
Yeah.
Mullins, everybody's given Jared Stidham these roses, like
Yeah.
he's really earned something. And to be honest, when you break down the film, this guy is a one read type of guy and goes to his
Yeah.
check down.
Yeah.
He's a lot of these wide receivers, bro. They're really trying to compete and earn a spot on this roster and try to
Mhm.
separate themselves. When I was breaking down film, there was a crosser across the middle of the field, Tyron Johnson, wide open window, as open as you're going to
Yep.
get in the National Football League. Jared Stidham doesn't throw it. We know the
Yep.
end zone play where Kenyon Drake was wide open, and then
Yep.
the safety comes down and covers up Drake. But if you look in the back of the end zone on that same play, Keelan Cole is jumping up and down because he's wide open in the back of the end zone, and it's
Yeah.
just for me, I understand that Jared Stidham has history with Josh McDaniels. I get that he
Mhm.
knows the scheme and the system. It's just for me, he's a bit gun shy with the football. And
Yes.
and if
Yeah.
he plays that way, say God forbid something
Yeah.
were to happen to Derek Carr and Jared Stidham was the guy to move in,
Mhm.
is that a guy that could really win us a football game, or are you higher on a guy like Nick Mullins who might cause a bit more turnovers than Jared Stidham, but he at least gives his guys an opportunity to go and compete for the football? He kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of a Matt McGloin situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stands firm in the pocket, delivers the football, gives his guys an
Mhm.
opportunity. In the backup quarterback position, where are you at with that? Do you like Nick Mullins? Do you like Jared
Yeah.
Stidham?
It's interesting you say that because after you watch the tape, Stidham really is like he's like
Oh,
a deer
bro.
caught in headlights. Like once his first read goes, it's almost like he's like panicking at that point, and he doesn't even choose to look a different direction. He's just looking everywhere and is not making a decision almost. So it's just it's definitely true what you said in that aspect. Mullins seems like he's taking the lead when it comes to being at number 2, especially after last week. After the first week, it was kind of like Stidham, but after week 2, and you especially after you look at the film, it's like, oh man, Mullins is got a step on you. But not only that, it's like, dude, you've been with this coaching staff, you've been with this playbook, you've been with the terminology. You should be taking the lead on this easily, right? And we go out and trade for him. So it's just interesting that he doesn't like have that step. He doesn't have that
He just
one up.
doesn't. No, he just doesn't gun it in there. Like he has all the
No.
opportunity, and he had more weapons out on the field than what a Nick
No.
Mullins had at the time. And even a guy like Chase Garbers, bro, for being an undrafted rookie, I thought he's actually played pretty well. He's been pretty safe with the football. When the sacks come, he doesn't force the ball in a bad area. He kind of takes the sack and moves on to the next play. He's kind of sneaky athletic with his legs. He's not afraid to stand in the pocket. Chase Garbers is actually a guy I want to see a little bit more of. I wouldn't mind seeing him involved in the second quarter, maybe get him out there with the Tyron Johnson and the Mac Hollins and all those guys competing for roster spots, because I think this young kid could sling it. Now, we might have something to do with the practice squad and maybe develop him over some times, but Chase Garbers is actually he's actually played pretty good for me. I don't know how you feel about him, but when it comes to this backup quarterback situation, if something were to happen, man, I want somebody who's willing to stand in the pocket with guys like Devontae and Hunter and Darren. You got to give these guys opportunities to go grab the football. And I just don't see that, dude, to be honest with Jarrett Stidham. Let's address
No, you're 100% right. And you said it when you said he was gun shy. That was the best way to explain it, because that's ultimately what it is. He'll see it, but it's almost like he's scared he's about to throw an interception, even when the guy's like really open. And it's like, you got to just make that happen, man. So he's definitely gun shy. That was a good way to put it. Mullins, like we were saying, probably has that step on him right now. I haven't really paid too much attention to Garbers or whatever his name is. I ain't even gonna lie to you, man. At that point, that's kind of where I
tune out.
stop, because it's like at that point we're getting a veteran or some shit. It's like somebody's coming in at this point. We ain't gonna have this dude out here. Hell no. Nah. Like we got too much on the line. We got, so like I think if anything were to happen, like critically, maybe we bring a guy in like our backup, but we would end up bringing a vet in if it was a long-term injury. Now, if it's 1 or 2 games, then Mullins is the guy that you could feel comfortable with. Even Stidham, but at the same time, Mullins in this case is the better one. So, so I want to see what this offense does, because it's interesting. Earlier, you had brought up that I don't want to change the word you said, but basically the core of this offense is going to be through the run game. But it's like we have so many weapons on the outside. Hunter Renfrow, like Devontae Adams, Waller. How is everybody going to share the football if we're just going to ultimately be running the football most of the time? So I just want to see how we go out there and play, man.
So when I say that, it's not necessarily, I don't mean it in the sense of how John Gruden ran the offense, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing it that everything – this offense is going to be more balanced off of the back of each other. So I think as the running game gets going, obviously it opens up things for the receivers. But this year with a guy like a Devontae, with a guy like Hunter and Darren, with all the weapons that you have on the outside of this offense, it's going to loosen up the box. I mean, you have to allocate defensive backs out there. We're going to see a lot lighter boxes, I believe, this year. Which a guy like Josh Jacobs could really benefit from, because let's be honest, this entire time that he's been with the Las Vegas Raiders, John Gruden always running an I formation. I know if I was seeing it, you were seeing it. Sitting on the couch, we can almost call John's plays, right? We knew what it was going to be, and it was extremely predictable play calling, and I think that that's going to be out of the window this year. And I know it's going to be a running back by committee, but what you're able to do with these running backs, it is really diverse and pretty unique, if you ask me. It's kind of unlike any other running back situation in the league, when it's not just 1 or 2 guys or even 3. It's a multitude of guys who can do a lot of really unique things. When you get to the wide receiver room, I don't think the Raiders have had weapons like this in probably 20 years since we made the Super Bowl run. I'm really curious to see the chemistry between Devontae and, look, honestly, everybody's asking me, do you see these starters getting any playing time in the preseason? And to be honest, I want to see this thing completely under wrap. I don't want to see a single thing until week 1. I want us to go into SoFi Stadium, and I want the Chargers to be like asking all the questions. You know what I mean? I want to see him seeing Devontae warming up in pregame, and I think it just builds the momentum of what the Raiders have been building this offseason. It's actually special. I don't know how about you feel. How do you feel about this regime? How do you feel about the Raiders organization? Do you get the sense that I get that it just feels different? There's something going on in the desert
Yeah,
out there this year, and it just
yeah,
feels different.
most definitely. I mean, just the simple fact that we actually make the big trades or make the big moves and they work out. You go get Devontae Adams and it actually worked out, and we didn't give up like 4 first-round picks.
Right.
You think about when we went and made a trade for Antonio Brown, you don't have to talk too much about it, but it was a big trade. And honestly, it wasn't a bad trade. I mean, Antonio Brown was
Mm-mm.
still a good receiver. It didn't work out, though,
Mm-mm.
right? I remember in the past, Randy Moss, we go out and get Randy Moss, and it's like, how do you get Randy Moss and still do bad? But this is a moment to where it's like we expect to go to the Super Bowl at this point. Like
Mm.
we're AFC contenders. So that's why I think it feels different because it's real. It's on paper, and it's not only Raider fans saying it, it's everybody saying it. So I think that's the most fun part that's going to be the most fun part about this season is reaching those expectations.
And you could almost make the argument that the biggest acquisitions was probably Dave Ziegler and Josh
Yeah.
McDaniels. I mean,
Yeah,
without
most
those two
definitely.
guys, coming off of a season last year, dude, like when the whole John Gruden situation, the hit job, Henry Ruggs killing somebody,
Yeah.
the Raiders still squeaking into the playoffs with different head coaches, Waller's injured, you lose
Yeah.
your receivers. I mean, it was overall just a terrible season. And for Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler to really come in and almost kind of erase that, that hasn't even been really
Yeah.
a topic of conversation. They've
Yeah.
created so much buzz, so much competition, reloading this roster. And typically on a 10-7 football team, Ray, you're adding a piece or two and you're trying to build upon what you did the previous year. They have just thrown talent after talent at this
Mhm.
roster. And they've taken a 10-7 football team. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, well, what are the Raiders now?
Yeah.
They're probably in the deepest division in probably the history of the
Football.
league in
Yeah.
football. I mean, it is
Yeah.
such a deep division. Every single team could possibly make the playoffs. Um, where do you see the Raiders lining up, especially in the AFC West? Who are you kind of like looking at the most? Is it the Chargers? Is it still the Chiefs? Where are you at with
Yeah.
the Raiders in the AFC West?
Honestly, man, I don't have any predictions, man. I haven't really looked into it because this season is going to be so tough because the Chargers are going to be good. I mean, let's be honest. The Broncos are going to be good. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. And it's going to be hard. You think about last year. Last year was an interesting year. And I think it basically is going to be the same repeat of last year, only with the Broncos doing a little bit better. And
Mhm.
it's going to be a record to where we're not going to expect, like, it's not going to be like, oh, we're 12-5 or, everybody's 12-5. No, it's going to be a grind. It's going to be a grind because everybody's going to be winning. So it's going to probably be more like a 9-10 win team that takes the division ultimately. Um,
I
so
think
that's
when
kind
you
of what I think is going to happen in our division because it's just so tough. Not everybody's going to win. So,
no, and I think when you look at the division, you really because everybody's so good, you have to look at the coaching staff. I think
yeah,
Andy Reid has shown Andy Reid he's the man when it comes to regular
yeah,
season
yeah,
football. So they're the champs until proven otherwise. So I'll give it to Andy Reid. I think they have a really good coaching staff up there, and they just find a way to win. When you go down to the Chargers, there's still a little bit question marks, right? Their head coach is pretty aggressive when it comes to fourth down and making iffy decisions. I'm sure he's going to learn from that and probably come into this
mhm,
year much improved. I would imagine. I mean, I would hope so if I'm the Chargers. The Denver Broncos have a new coaching staff, and typically
yeah,
when you get a new coaching staff, a new quarterback, there's a lot of things to work out. And word in from camp is that Russell Wilson has been a little bit underwhelming. I'm curious to see how they do in that situation over there. It
mhm,
might take them a minute, but typically Russell Wilson thrives in those first 6 weeks, and then we kind of see that taper off effect.
yeah,
So if he can't start out hot, I'm kind of curious to see how the Denver Broncos fall this season. I'm not too worried about them. Honestly, when it comes to the regular season, I think that we match up well with the Chargers. We always end up playing them really well. I mean, look at us in week 17. We had no business winning that football game, if I'm being honest. But we went in there and we fought for it tooth and nail and came out with the dub. But
yeah,
Andy Reid is really the one of those coaching. It comes down to coaching for me.
no. Well, when you think about the Chargers and you think about this offensive line, this is why this Saturday I really want to see who the Dolphins play if they have some of their starter edges out there because I want
Yeah.
to see how our tackles do against this Dolphins edge. if they have their starters. Because think about the Jags, not Kayvon Walker. Why I keep saying that? Trayvon Walker on the Jags was probably the best edge defender we faced so far. And if you think about it, he's a rookie. You know, he's a rookie,
Right.
and that's the worst team that we could have possibly played in the Jags. Like from last year, that was the worst team we could have played. So this Dolphins team is actually a step up of competition when it comes to going from the Jags, Vikings, and then to the Dolphins, in my opinion. So I want to see if they start their edge and then see how this room of tackles do. Because when you say matchup against the Chargers, and we're having questions at tackle, then it's kind of like, I don't know if that matchup favors us, right? Because they do have great defensive backs. Derwin James can cover Darren Waller. This has been shown. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything about Darren Waller, but Derwin James is just a good safety.
Right.
Let's be honest. And he can make a play on when it comes to covering Darren Waller. They go out and get J.C. Jackson, another great corner. Asante Samuel's a young corner that they have. That's great. So whoever is on the other side of the football is going to have to definitely create some type of separation and make plays for us. Because they're going to probably want to shade to that side, or Devontae's side. So it's going to be interesting when playing the Chargers. To me, that's the one team I want to see how we match up against, because I believe they learned from last year. They matured, and their coach matured too, and he probably learned a lot. So the Chargers, I would keep an eye on them, man, because they could be a pain in the ass when it comes to the regular season. But when it comes to crunch time and like the playoffs, I'm not too worried about them. But they could be one of those teams to where, you know, if you don't be careful, that one or two games that you mess up on is going to sneak up on you. You know what I mean? And that's another thing. We have to win the games we're supposed to win. You think about last year, I know we were dealing with stuff, but it seems like we won the games we weren't supposed to and then lost the games we were supposed to win.
Right.
You lose to the Bears and the Giants, and it's like you win those two games, you're not in any type of situation. You're basically riding, you know what I mean, riding out into the sunset. So let's see how we do this year, and let's have fun. Ultimately, man, let's have some fun. See what Derek Carr does, because I'm not going to jump too far into this conversation, but last year, and when it comes to Derek Carr, man, it's a whole different conversation when the
You better be
season
careful
starts
what you say,
rolling, because people start going crazy, and it's like, oh man, you can't even say, you're walking on eggshells, man. I'm telling you, when it comes to that. So I just want to have fun this season. I want to see what Coach McDaniels does and this offensive line does, especially this Saturday going against the Dolphins, like I said, because if they have good edge out there, that'll be fun. I mean, they got Javon Holland. Let's see if he plays. He's another good DB safety out there. They have good DB. So this is going to be one of the better teams, and I'm excited for this Saturday alone, man. So let's see what happens.
There's 50 of you guys in the chat, man. We need to have 50 likes. We don't ask nothing from you. I need you to go over to Raid the Tape and subscribe to him. Puts out some fantastic content. But yeah, talking about the Derek Carr situation, bro, I learned to not care anymore. Like,
yeah,
I think honestly, the Raiders organization is blessed to have a quarterback like Derek Carr.
Mm-hmm.
And going through everything that you went through last season, a lot of people would have folded. And not only last season, but look at his career with the Raiders. I mean, constant turnover at the head coaching position.
Yeah.
You're talking about a city change. Defensive coordinator, the defensive have been ranked in the bottom of the league. You're always in a position to force to come back. You don't have serious weapons, and all he's done is stayed loyal to the Raider Nation.
Yeah.
Honestly, if he can go in and win a Super Bowl, or maybe even two, say down the road with the Super Bowl window being open, that's a hypothetical, but
yeah,
you're talking about maybe one of the best Raiders quarterbacks to do it. And
if he is the best, he's the best Raiders quarterback right now.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll say that. I mean, I'll say that. I mean, let's be honest. You look at. I'm not going to go down to that debate, but
no,
he's the best. He's the best Raiders quarterback there is.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. He so far, like, there's no other quarterback that's done with the things he's done and how to deal with the things he's dealt with. So it's just it's all there. But let's not get into that too much, because you know what I mean. You might start getting some wild people in the chat. So
they can kick rocks.
It's most definitely, man.
Do you see him having like a 5,000-yard season, you think? Maybe like a 4,500, 35 touchdowns?
No. I just think he'll have like a moderate season. I think his touchdowns will be a little bit higher. I think he'll finally have like a 30-something, you know what I mean, touchdowns this season, 33 or something. But I think his yards will stay moderate because, you take in consideration the run game. The run game is going to take effect and take on some of those yards, but I think our red zone defense or offense should click a little bit better than with John Gruden because let's be honest, it was the red zone offense was abysmal when John Gruden was here. It was no better than 22nd, I believe.
Did
All
you see
4
the
years he was
interview
there.
with Darren Waller on Bussin' with the Boys?
Yeah, yeah,
How he was talking about how the red zone offense and how he wasn't being utilized, and he was like, "Man, what are we doing when it comes to the red zone?" I
yeah,
like that he made the comment about how Josh McDaniels is changing all that up. And I
yeah,
could see Darren Waller, guys like Foster Moreau. Everybody was talking about, man, we need red zone weapons. And when you break it down, man, you got Devontae Adams, which is one of the best back shoulder red zone targets in the entire league. You got a
yep.
sneaky Hunter Renfro who just finds a way to create space. Darren Waller is going to be utilized more. Foster Moreau. I mean, that's just talking about those guys. It's not talking about a Keelan Cole or a Mac Hollins or these depth guys that have experience in the red zone who aren't small guys either. So I think that the red zone is going to jump up tenfold. I think Josh McDaniels has proved that his scheme is among the top in the league when it comes to creating points. So that's nothing that I'm really worried about. If there was going to be a player that you feel like is getting overlooked that could explode onto the scene, who would be your guy, offense or defense?
Overlooked. It's hard to
Yeah,
say that because we're in the niche. You know what I mean? Like we're in
right.
we're in the grind. We're down here with the Raider fans, so it's like there's really no surprise because Raider fans already know who they are. But I would just have to say, man, it's tough, man. I would have to say Alex Leatherwood. Let me go Alex Leatherwood, man.
That's bold.
That's
That's
a hot
bold.
take right there, boy. That's a hot take. But no, he's not really under the radar or anything like that. But I think he's just, or I think the word used was overlooked or something like that. And I say he is kind of getting overlooked. I feel like he's always getting thrown out. His name's always getting thrown into the mud. Like, let's be honest. Like I
That
said
is
earlier, just like the point in case, his situation compared to Cole Miller's. Cole Miller got to ride the wave for freaking 3 years. Let's be honest. So
right.
Alex Leatherwood gets a couple of weeks and then kicked inside and then come back the next year, new regime, and then it's like, all right, you know what I mean? It's up to you to win it. And it's like, damn, imagine if Cole Miller had to come in and compete with, some other guys, he wouldn't even be here. Let's be honest. So I think for Alex Leatherwood, it just sucks his name has to be, thrown around from being I guess a bad football player. And then also the fact that we drafted him so high doesn't help either. So I would say Alex Leatherwood. I'll go with that, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Offensively, I'd probably say I'm going to go with a unique one. I'm going to go with Lester Cotton. I feel like this dude has turned his career around a bit, and in the kind of off season that he's had, man, he found his faith, lost a lot of weight, got into a good diet. I mean, you could just tell that this is a player who's completely different. He was
Yeah.
graded as the highest guard in the first 2 weeks of preseason, which is actually pretty remarkable. He's only allowed 2 hurries. Something he really came out of nowhere. And when I was first hearing the talks that he was probably going to be the starting right guard going into week 1, I was like, that's a little bit of cap. I thought that was a little bit of fake news going on, but no, man, he's shown it up on tape. I think he's probably the best right guard that the Raiders have right now. And I do think that Alex Leatherwood, I think you create a good point. It's funny, Raider Nation is extremely loyal, the best fan base in the world, but
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one to say it. You know what I mean? We can be a little bit toxic at times. And
Yeah. Most
especially
definitely.
when these guys are, when they're a bit down, it's like, man, we just throw everything on them. And
Yeah.
you can kind of tell that Alex Leatherwood has been feeling the weight of this competition.
Yep.
When a 7th-round draft pick like Thayer Mumford is earning practice reps over you, you can tell that that dogfight a little bit. You can see it's a little bit wearing on him, and I'm hoping that the coaching staff, I know that they're trying to get the best out of him. When you put a first-round draft pick into the fourth quarter of a football game, it's never really a good sign.
No.
I think that they're wanting to see, Alex, what is your fire? Like, do you want to be a premier right tackle in the National Football League? Do you love to play football? I think for me, that's the biggest question mark for Alex Leatherwood right now is, does this kid love football? Because when I see him, I know that he's a kind of bit of a shy, reserved guy, but I'm just kind of like, man, do you love the game of football?
Yeah. Well, I would say in his defense that would you say, let me ask you this first, actually. When you watch him on tape, would you say seems like there's a different demeanor or a different person when he goes to block in the run game versus in the pass game?
Right. I do. I think my problem with Alex and when I say this, I like Alex Leatherwood. I really do. I want Alex to pan out. I think he has the
Mhm.
measurables. I think that he has the traits. In the run game, I don't really see that big of an issue. He actually plays really good when it comes to run blocking, which is why on the interior he found success at the right guard position. I thought you could kind of run behind him and find some success. For me, man, it's pass pro. It's getting a consistent technique constantly, getting out of his set really quickly, not being afraid to punch. And that's the problem I see with Alex is there's times where he looks like he can hold his own against the best of them. He has a really good punch, has good athleticism, anchors really well. But then there's times where it just looks like he don't care. It's almost like he takes
Yeah.
plays off. And going against guys like Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa twice a year, Carlos Dunlap with the Kansas City Chiefs. You got those premier edge rushers out there in Denver. Like you can't do that, especially at this level. So Alex is going to be an interesting one for me
Mhm.
because I think even if you were to go to kick him inside, like say Jermaine were to win that starting right tackle spot, which I know a lot of people aren't saying that, but I'll come out and say it. I think he's your right tackle come week one. Alex Leatherwood, dude, I don't know if he wins out the right guard spot.
Yeah.
And then you have to beg the question, is this first round draft pick, then what does it do to his confidence? You know,
Mhm.
does this first round draft pick now become your depth rotational piece, kind of like what Brandon Parker was for us? And I
Mhm.
don't know if that's necessarily good. So the Raiders are in a bit of a weird situation when it comes to Alex Leatherwood.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what Coach Priscilla decides to do because this is one of those turning points in a guy's career, right? Like it's at
Yeah.
least with this regime, it's like, do
Mhm.
you break him mentally? Is he gonna? I don't know. I don't know if Alex can rebound from this.
I think for Leatherwood, even if he doesn't work out the Raiders, he'll be able to find opportunity elsewhere. I mean, let's be honest. Another team will pick him up and bring him in and try to develop him. I could definitely see Alex Leatherwood in a Ravens jersey, um,
Hmm.
being out there trying to help that run game. Definitely, even if it's someone they just want to polish up and just bring in, maybe a year or two from whenever they pick him up if he's no longer with us. So it'll just be something we have to watch and develop over time. But I wish he would have got his opportunity to just stick it out at right tackle. But I mean, we were trying to win now, and what happens when you try to win now? You got to be good now. So I guess he's not cutting the roster as far as right now. Thayer Munford, though, let's see what he has to see if he could even steal that spot. Uh, this Saturday, we'll find out, I'm sure. I don't think Cole Miller is going to be coming in anytime soon, and he's the only lock for sure. Dylan Parham, we haven't really talked about him too much since I hopped on, but it's interesting to see him take them center snaps.
Hmm.
And Andre James is definitely a lock for me, but Dylan Parham taking those center snaps, I don't know if they're trying to like say anything or if he's just say this is the backup center for us without a doubt. And I think that majority of that's what it is, that he's going to be our backup center. But what do you think about Dylan Parham?
So I like Dylan Parham. I think a lot of Raider Nation look. The Raiders have been forced to start a lot of young guys pretty often, right? You go back on Max Crosby, Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow, Nate
Mhm.
Hobbs. I mean, really the core pieces of this football team. You really put these young guys in starting lineups pretty early. However, with the roster that the Raiders have built, I don't know if you got to see this, but the Raiders now have the second oldest roster in the NFL, an average age of about 27 and a half, and the first
Yeah.
oldest team is the New England Patriots. So I don't think that there's a coincidence there. Uh,
Mhm.
you now have the opportunity with these young guys, especially with the new regime coming in that didn't have all this time to scout these guys. You have the opportunity to really develop them. And I like Dylan Parham. I think he offers you a lot. I think he's your backup center. I agree with you. Andre James is the lock for me right now.
Mhm.
Um, but he offers you versatility when it comes to the guard positions, playing both left and right guard. I think he's a serviceable backup right now. But for me personally, right, I want to see them develop Parham. I want to see it done the right way. And with this kid, he has all the potential in the world, and you have an opportunity to do it the right way. So if you can put him back behind a Lester Cotton, if you can put him back behind a Jermaine Illuminor or a John Simpson, eh, granted, if those guys actually compete and beat out Parham, let this kid develop. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with even letting a guy like Thayer Mumford develop.
Mhm.
So for when it comes to the offensive line, I don't really where we were as an organization back in 2018 or whenever it was when we took a Colton Miller. We were just in a different position when it came to the organization. We weren't competing for a
Yeah.
Super Bowl right away.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is you guys were competing for a Super Bowl this year. That's the goal. That's the end goal. And
Yep.
especially for these next 3 years, that win now window is a bit open. So you're going to want to put, regardless if you're a first round draft pick, an undrafted free agent, a high bargain free agent guy, or a low bin free agent guy, the best 5 is going to get out there and contribute to the offensive line. And that's all I care about. If it's a Luminor and Lester Cotton, Andre James, John Simpson, and Cole Miller, then let it be that. As long as we're competing and chasing a championship, I'm okay with that. I don't think, Raider Nation, you don't want Thayer Mumford out there week 1. You just don't. And I don't think you want Dylan Parham out there week 1. This is asking a lot from these rookies going on a big show like that. Put your established football players in there. Coach Brasillo likes guys with experience. Put those guys up front.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And it would say a lot if Thayer Mumford ended up being the starter, because I feel like it'd be almost an unprepared move because you never expected it to happen, and it wasn't supposed to happen. So I think that right there is something to keep on. Now with Brandon Parker, was it ever confirmed that he was on IR?
No, so this is the thing that I think is going on. Just doing a little bit of research behind the scenes. I think Brandon Parker, I think that they're actually reaching, well, first they're getting a second opinion, I believe. They want to know if he's for sure going to be out. However, I honestly think that they're going to be reaching an injury settlement, which is why you haven't seen much of that move. Typically, with a guy that has 1 year left, if you send him to IR, you owe him all the money. You have to cover all the medical expenses. And then there's money that transfers over for you into the next offseason. So I don't think that the Raiders necessarily want to do that if it is season ending. It's just one of those unique situations. Guys with 1 year's left on their deal, you got to look at that situation. So I think that they're coming up with the injury settlement. And so both sides are probably going back and forth on, hey, Raiders, are you going to cover this surgery? Are you going to cover this offseason rehab? Like, I'm sure they're kind of working through those things and getting a second opinion. I do believe Brandon Parker is done, though. I think they're moving forward, and it's probably the last time we've seen Brandon Parker in the silver and black, if I'm being honest.
Well, best wishes to him. Now it's on to the next man. I guess next man up, one topic, though, because it's getting to like an hour point. It's getting about an hour point, but I do want to touch on this one topic because I feel like we somehow missed it, the linebacker position, which today, I believe today we released Kenny Young, was it?
Yep.
And so with the release of Kenny Young, and we have 2 young guys, I believe it's Masterson and Darian Butler still on the roster. What do you see this linebacker room really shaping up?
So to be honest with you, I know everybody's hyping up Darian Butler, but when I'm watching film, it's Luke Masterson that's getting these guys into position. He's making calls on the defense. I thought he's had a pretty remarkable preseason, to be honest. He's aggressive when it comes to run defense. He's getting his head in there. Pass coverage, he's in the right lanes. He was part of the responsibility in the Vikings game along with Andrew Billings, but Luke Masterson on the back end, if you watch the All-22, he did a remarkable job in coverage, really taking some options away from the quarterback. So Luke Masterson, with the release of Kenny Young, I think it says that these young guys are really competing for a roster spot. If I had to make the pick, I would go Luke right now. And I was a guy who was pretty big on Darian Butler, but I think Luke is just emerging a little bit more. I think he's grasped this defense a little bit more. What about you? What do you see out of the linebacker situation?
I think just pretty much what you said. I think Masterson definitely also has the size. Darian Butler's just a little bit smaller, but you look at Masterson, you look at Luke, he's about the same size as Denzel Perriman. So I think he just fits that in the middle of the defense a lot more, especially if he has to fill in for Denzel Perriman. And that's why I wanted to kind of touch on it, because we know Denzel that Perriman has dealt with injuries throughout his career. When he was with the Panthers, Chargers, and even last year, I believe he had to come out a couple of games. So you could think about it. Masterson may have to come in every once in a while and play some snaps. So this is going to probably be the guy that's going to do it. Like you said, he was out there making some calls, right? He was the one getting everybody lined up with the green dot. So that's going to be something to look out for, as well as who's going to be kind of our more agile linebackers, Diablo and Jayon Brown. And you can probably put Darian Butler in that conversation, because he's a little bit smaller, but he's agile as well. He has some good twitch to him. Now, I wanted to talk about Diablo because I feel like Diablo kind of has, I wouldn't say injury prone, but I feel like he's always like kind of nicked up, and he always has
Yep.
like this minor injury to where he might have to come out the game. He ends up sitting out the entire game because he has this small injury. So when you think about this offseason, he hasn't really been out there. So I kind of want to see how that develops because the depth of this linebacker room may be something to keep an eye out for. But at the same time, we are stacked in the linebacker room, I believe.
We're stacked, but at the same time, when you kind of look at it, last year was kind of an anomaly for Denzel Perryman. He's kind of a guy who has struggled with injury history in his career as well. You look at a Jayon Brown. Jayon Brown is coming off of a pretty significant knee injury. Divine Diablo, one of those smaller safeties that transitioned to linebacker, who he plays really aggressive, so his body's kind of always nicked up. These guys, they're good football players, and I really like the depth of our linebacker room. But moving forward, it's going to be one of those situations to keep an eye on because these guys have the tendency to get beat up a little bit. Something that I really liked is I think it's pretty apparent that that Patrick Graham's going to be running the 42 defense quite a bit. We've seen Jonathan Abram come down in the box, which honestly, let's just be honest, that's where he should have been his entire career, probably covering running backs out of the backfield. I've talked about it on my live shows. An underutilized aspect of Jonathan Abram's game for me is deploying him as a blitzer and getting him after the quarterback more. I think that could bode well for the Raiders defense. And you kind of seen that, right, last week in the Minnesota game. And we always talk about a defense working cohesively together. And Jonathan Abram goes in on a blitz, right? Creates a forced throw. Jayon Brown gets up and gets his hand on the football. And then it pops up for a guy like Daron Harmon to potentially make a play. That's what the Raiders defense needs moving forward. It's all guys working together as one cohesive unit. And it was nice to finally see glimpses of that. When you're talking about playing a lot of man coverage and forcing these quarterbacks to get rid of the football quickly, this season you're going to have a lot of guys getting a hand on the football. Yep. In those tip drill situations, it's going to be crucial this offseason because if the Raiders defense can create turnovers, I think you're having a real conversation of the Raiders are going to be in the mix. They could even be in that top 15 range, that 15 to 12 range. But if they're opportunistic when it comes to turnovers, I think that's what's going to bode well for the Raiders moving forward.
And that's what it's ultimately going to be because you think about the offseason, you think about the coaching staff and this new regime, everybody's focused on the offense. Everybody talks about the offense because it's an offensive league now. And we get Devontae Adams. We just signed Hunter Renfrow, Derek Carr. We put like $300 million into that offense already. So everybody's focused on the offense. But Patrick Graham coming off of a season to where his defense was ranked 26th, I believe. That Giants defense was ranked somewhere around there. So he's definitely going to come in and want to, revamp a defense and make a name for himself once again. Because that first year he did have a good defense with the Giants, and then it kind of tailored off in that second year. So him coming in to be with the Raiders, I think he definitely wants to go out there and make a spark, make a name for himself, especially have an opportunity to coach with Josh McDaniels because this is only going to help propel him into a head coaching position as well. Before we even hired him, I believe people wanted to interview him for head coaching jobs. So we have a great coaching staff, and you kind of touched on it earlier about this new regime and how this AFC West is going to vote when it comes to a coaching staff, and that's going to be a huge factor. And that was a very good point. So I think that just went full circle. So I think that's a good way to look at it. I think Patrick Graham will have this defense causing turnovers. We watched last year when we played them. Derek Carr threw an interception. Wasn't one of our best games. For sure wasn't one of our best games. We should have won that game. But, he went out there and had a game plan ready for us, and they ultimately won. So hopefully he's able to do that for us and stop Herbert and Mahomes and drop some things.
Yeah, that's where I was going to lead into it. It's his success against AFC West quarterbacks. He had a game plan for Patrick Mahomes, and he really limited the skill set of Patrick. You know what I mean? Putting guys over the top and forcing Pat to make good throws. When really, look, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have that close your eyes and throw the ball 80 yards downfield threat this year, right? With losing Tyreek Hill. So he's going to be forced to make a lot more accurate throws, and I think that's where he actually struggles. He makes a lot of big plays because he had the playmakers to do so, but I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. I'm going to open up the question. I'm not going to keep Raid that much longer. I'm going to open up and you guys can ask questions. So just ask a question, whether for me or for Raid, and we'll address those questions for you. So if you guys haven't yet, man, go over to Raid the Tape, subscribe to his channel, does phenomenal content, live shows, talks about the roster. I'm just grateful that he was decided to come on. It was nice to finally get to talk to him. It's been a long time coming for me. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem. No problem. You already know what it is, man.
so chat, let's get to asking some questions. Who's got the first questions, man? Let's see. Jack Kenna says, man, this is the most proud show. Both my boys. Thank you. On a personal level, you both know. Hope you keep doing this. Hey, man, we'll work it out, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hopefully we can. This isn't the last time that we get to sit down and talk.
Oh no, no, most definitely. The season hasn't even started. You know what I mean? So
Oh, we got a long time.
we're just barely getting started, man. Especially when the drama hits, it's gonna be a lot of fun to talk when the debates come out, and when people start putting it on tape, that's when everything happens. So we're still early in the game. We're still early in the game.
Cash Lord says Raid is the GOAT. Jeff Roy TV.
Cash Lord, yeah. Me and Cash Lord have gone under the debate before as well. Shout out to Cash Lord.
Jeff Roy TV says, hey, Ray, does Trayvon Mullen ever get his job back?
Well, I mean, specifically, if you're asking me, I'm gonna be biased a little bit because I like Trayvon Mullen. I think he has great length. I think he has a good build to be that man coverage kind of cornerback, and those are the kind of corners I like. You think about this draft class, I'd like Kyrie Elam because he has those same tendencies. He's a man coverage guy. He's slender, and he has that good length. And I like those kind of corners, especially when they're a little bit bigger. Anthony Averett is like that, but like I said before, Anthony Averett is built like Hunter Renfrow. He's a small guy. He's about my size. Me and him are the same size, and I can only imagine being out there playing. So, when I think about it like that, I like bigger corners. And Trayvon Mullen, I feel like people forget what he's done for this team. He's been the number one corner for most of the time he's been here. I know Casey Hayward was here last year, but could you imagine if Trayvon Mullen and Casey Hayward were out there the whole entire season?
That's what I'm saying.
It would have made our defense a lot different. But no, we had like a Brandon Faison out there, and I can't even remember who else we had.
Desmond Trufant.
Yeah, Desmond Trufant.
That's wild if you think about
it. Yeah, we just put anybody we could find out there at that point. So I think Trevor Mullen could definitely get his job back if he goes out there and he steps it up. Now, you think about it, I believe Anthony Averett wasn't there at practice today, right?
Right.
And
I know he returned. I know he returned.
Back?
Yeah, Rock is back. Rock's back.
Okay. So, I mean, as long as Trayvon Mullen continues to stay at practice and go showcase what he has, I think he'll be all right. I think he fits Patrick Graham's system. But again, I've been wrong before, and maybe Patrick Graham wants to go in a different direction and likes a guy like Anthony Averett because he does fit the scheme as well. But to me personally, I don't like smaller corners.
No, I don't either. I like the long press man, lanky. Cash Lord says, will Walter make this team? He's the new Darren Sproles returner and running back. I kind of like that comparison. It's going to be hard for him to make this team. It really is. And I honestly think if he continues to build upon what he did against the Minnesota Vikings, he has an opportunity to actually get a team to go out there and stash him on that 53-man roster as maybe a depth piece on one of these teams that need a runner. I want to see him as a Raider. I love his style. I think he shows that he wants to be on this football team. I just see him as a practice squad guy right now, unfortunately. I see Britton Brown getting cut. I think Jacobs, Drake, Bolden, and Zeus, and then Jakob is going to be your starters. I don't know. It kind of sucks saying that, man.
Yeah, I see it the same way, but you got to think about it like this. I wouldn't want to go into the season with too many young running backs, right?
Right.
We got Zamir White. He's definitely he's a rookie. So you have one there. Josh Jacobs been around now for a few years, and then Drake is a veteran guy. Now Amir Abdullah has been around as well. But if you want to keep an Andrew Walter or a Britton Brown or there's another running back I'm forgetting, another young guy, Britton Brown, Walter. Maybe there's not, but those two are definitely young guys.
Amir Abdullah,
but those two are young guys. I wouldn't want to keep too many young running backs. I think Zamir White is the only one we keep at that point. What's his name? Jacob, not Jacob. He was playing for the Patriots too.
Brandon Bolden.
Brandon Bolden. There we go, Brandon Bolden. So we're just gonna see how that chops up because why bring Brandon Bolden in and just cut him? Was he just a guy that was going to come in and help this team uh, understand the terminology and figure out the offense and stuff like that, and then we're going to get rid of him before the season starts, or because we haven't even seen him out there. But you see Josh Jacobs and Zamir White and everybody else.
Jack Kenneth says, Raid, you asked me to look for a Raiders bar restaurant in the 916. No luck. If not, let's create our loan.
You said let's create our own shit. Get on it, brother.
Get on it,
We
dude.
knocked that joint out.
You
JK,
put the money down. Billings and
Every
Vickers
time.
could get it done. If Hankins and Nichols get tired, I believe in them. I think that they're decent depth, and I think that they're depth pieces. A guy like Kyle Pico kind of emerged too, Cash Lord. He was good. He shows a lot of effort when you watch the tape. When you kick him on, regardless if it's a screen pass or whatever, getting his hand up at the line of scrimmage, batting balls down, getting after guys. I like Kyle Pico's effort at least. Jack Kenneth says, Raid, I'll pass my number to OG to you or through Ray. The 916 needs to have your show with Raiders fans around.
Shout out to JK, man. He's always showing love, always pulling up, brother.
Anthony says, raid the tape. Couple questions. What's your regular season prediction and what games do you plan on going to?
They be making words up. I swear, you got to
perdition.
Damn scramble out here. Shout out to Estrada though, man. What's good with you, brother? But season prediction, I don't really have a prediction like that, man. Like I said, this year I haven't really done the prediction thing. Last year I did. This year I think it's just going to be ultimately another grind. That's all I think. I think it's going to be tough to get into the playoffs, especially being in our conference, let alone in our division. You have the Bills, the Patriots, the Dolphins are trying to do things. The Colts are trying to do things. The Jaguars are trying to make a comeback with Doug Peterson as well. The Titans. I mean, think about the Titans. They won the division or the conference last year. I mean, how the hell did they finish first in the conference last year?
Right.
So it's like, let's see how they do this year. Maybe they fall off, but at the same time, you can't count them out. So the conference alone is stacked, man. You think about the NFC, it's not that strong. The NFC's whack.
No.
All the good teams are right here. All the good teams are right here. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I say 10 wins. I say we get 10 wins and it'll probably be like a tiebreaker to win the division.
I say our floor is probably 10-7 like it was last year, and I would say at best maybe like 11-6, 12-5. But to be honest with you, dude, I'm not. This season for some reason is a little bit different. I'm not into the whole prediction thing. I'm honestly enjoying where we're at. I've enjoyed the entire process this offseason, even where we are right now. I mean, we got a joint practice next week with the New England Patriots that I'm intrigued and looking forward to. And wrapping up the preseason and getting ready for week 1 and just taking this season week by week because I just think the Raiders could actually do something special this year. And instead of just writing them off as paper champs, I want this team to keep that mentality of, hey, we got to go earn it each and every single week. So every week we're 0-0 and we're striving to be 1-0. So that's the kind of like the approach I'm taking this year.
Yeah, I definitely hear that, man. I definitely hear that. But I think it's just that grind. It's just that grind. I can't count anybody else out. Like I said, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Bills, you go up north. Who's in the AFC North? AFC North. Drawing a blank for some reason.
Is that the Ravens?
Yeah, there we go. The Ravens, the Bengals, the Steelers. Like you can't count anybody out. The Ravens get Lamar Jackson back. He's probably about to get a big contract. And then you count in the Bengals, who he lost to in the playoffs. The AFC is loaded, so it's just going to be interesting to see, man. As a Raider fan, I don't want to be the one to be like, yeah, we're going to go out there and be undefeated all season. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be tough. Josh McDaniels, his first year as a head coach, he's going to have some adjustments. He's going to have to be the one to make certain calls that he wasn't used to before. So we'll see how he has his adjustments coming in as, his second time around as a head coach and making those adjustments. So
that's the thing that I'm fired up the most about. It's like with the Devontae and all that stuff is like the sexy moves, and I'm fired up and I can't wait to kind of see that. But really, I want to see the development of Josh McDaniels. I think you can just tell this guy he's not the same character that he was in Denver. And it almost feels like two different people. And just to see him on the sideline, he has like this quiet swagger about him. Like he just looks the part, and the team looks more prepared than what I've seen. I know it's preseason, but when it comes to tackling, really basically outside of the fourth quarter in the Jacksonville Jaguar game, and you could say late in the second quarter when the Vikings found some success running the football.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, this team just looks prepared from the
Yeah.
backup quarterbacks to the depth pieces at corner. The team just looks more prepared than what it did in times past. And I think the attention to details is pretty evident with the Raiders roster. So I'm really curious. I think that's what's going to separate the Raiders this year is actually the coaching staff. And can he make those on the fly adjustments? If we remember with John Gruden, it was like there was no adjustments made after halftime ever.
Yeah.
And it's like Josh McDaniels is the type of guy who can come in with a game plan. And if it doesn't work
Yeah.
out those first 3 series, he's trying something completely different.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how he does as the head coach though, because we know he's going to be in control of the offense, but it's just going to be that adjustment of making those calls as a head coach. So I want to see how he does that, see what approach he takes. If he's going to be on the more analytic side, he's going to be on the side of just having that kind of vibe, that intuition. So we'll see what he does. I think in the preseason he's done pretty well because didn't he throw a challenge flag
Right.
and
Yeah.
get that call for Tyron Johnson? So, I mean, a good first call there. I mean, that's maybe a sneak peek. He's just trusting his guys upstairs getting that call. So I think we're in tune for a good season, but I think we ultimately win the division, man. I will say that. I think we win the division, but it's going to be a close one, right? I think it's going to be close ones.
I think it'll be nice to finally see a coaching staff that can compete with Andy Reid, if I'm being honest. Like,
Yeah.
it felt like every time that we played the Chiefs, it was just we were getting out coached. Like, we just
Yeah.
didn't have an
Easily.
answer for anything that they were scheming up. And I think with Josh McDaniels, I think there's finally a coaching staff in the AFC West that's going to challenge Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the Chiefs sense that a little bit. I mean, everybody in this division has to be aware that the Raiders are coming. Like, there's something different. We have something going on this offseason that's just different from what it used to be. And I know that people from afar are looking in, but man, what does this say? Raid. Dirty Raiders in the building. He says, salute Raider Ray, salute Raid the tape. Jack Kinnis says, Raid, save my lazy arse and post so I can buy that Raiders gray and black cap. Hey, I'm going to be buying that one too. But look, man, there's 41 of you guys in the chat, man. Go over and smash the like button before we head out of here. I just want to thank Raid for coming on. I don't think that this is going to be the last time that we sit down and talk. I had a great time talking with him, just great conversation. Chat, if you enjoyed the show, I would encourage you guys to let us know down in the comments section below, especially when the live stream ends. It helps the YouTube algorithm. And look, man, we're on the road to 1,000. I don't have too far to go. That was my goal, man, this year was my first 3 to 4 months of creating content, man. Let's get to 1,000 before September 11th. So,
Yes, sir.
Raider Nation, man, I had a phenomenal time talking with Raid. Raid, if you got to do any plugs, man, you can do them now.
Hey, man, I appreciate you bringing me on. It's an honor, you know what I mean? When anybody asks me to go on the show, I always appreciate it. Whenever I get a chance, I'll hop on real quick. Shout out to everybody in the chat that did pull up. You know, got to show love there. If y'all want to follow me on Instagram, Raid the Tape, Twitter as well. If you want to check our Redemption brand, y'all can check our Redemption brand, go copy some gear. But as far as that, man, it's an exciting season. Many more shows to come. I'm sure I'll pull up plenty of times. And I'll have to have you come on the show as well, man. You know, get a whole group of content creators, probably a panel of 4 or something, and really get something cracking and a good debate going, a nice, healthy debate going, especially when the season starts, because everybody's opinions will be different.
Right.
And that's when it time, you know what I mean? That's when shit hits the fan, and it's really see who knows what the hell they're talking about, you know? So, and that's when it's fun. That's when it's really fun, you know? So
It is.
you
And
leave
I'm
it all
looking
up to
forward
the
to it.
yeah, you leave it all to the intelligence and leave it all to the tape, and that's where it is. It's all fun and football at the end of the day. So I appreciate you having me on, bro, and it was a good show, great show, man.
Awesome. Well, Raider Nation, man, until next time, y'all, we're going to be bringing you guys some content, so subscribe to the channel, smash it with the
Yep.
like button, and until next time, Raider Nation, just win, baby.